Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Maddie, I'm 19, and today I'm going to be doing a really cool video. It's kind of unusual, but I'm very excited about it. Oh my god, my voice. I am going to be making a recipe from the early modern period, and it's actually for my class, so I'm kind of doing an assignment joint kind of jumbled in with my YouTube channel. But yes, I am going to be preparing a recipe, taking you guys through my process, and then trying it at the end and rating it. So I'm very excited, and let's just do this together. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with kind of the early modern period or the time frame, just for some reference, it was between approximately like the 1500s, the early 1500s, or like the 15th century, so maybe a little bit later, or maybe a little bit earlier, excuse me, and then it ended around the 1800s. So it went through, I think, kind of like the Age of Enlightenment. Obviously, people kind of disagree on this fact, but from what I have researched, that was about the time frame. And so today for my recipe, I will be making the recipe for little cakes. I actually have no idea what that means because, you know, recipes from the early modern period don't necessarily translate to what we are familiar with today. But we're just gonna jump into this adventure and hope for the best and hope it does not taste disgusting. Okay, so I just started looking at this recipe, and my recipe is called To Make Little Cakes, and I legitimately don't know what to do with some of the instructions. It talks about pods, and I'm not sure how much a pod is, so I'm just going to translate that into cups. I looked it up. I could not find a pod conversion anywhere on the internet, so we're going to do it in cups and see how this turns out.
For the first section in the recipe, it stated that I was supposed to take 2 pods of very fine flour, but once again, having no idea what pods actually meant, I just decided to take 2 cups of flour and placed it into a bowl, and then I just left it at that. Next, I was instructed to take half a pot of sugar and place that into the bowl with the flour. However, once again, I just used half a cup of sugar. And at this point, I'm kind of doing this while my sisters are walking in and out of the kitchen because it's a busy communal space. But I just added half a cup of sugar to the 2 cups already there of flour and hoped for the best. Next, instead of 1 pod of sweet butter, I added 1 cup of non-sweetened butter. Honestly, I kind of felt bad about the part with the butter because I did melt it a little bit in the microwave, which I knew was totally not how they did it in the early modern period, but I really didn't think that I would be able to mix it completely all the way if I didn't at least melt it a little bit. So you can see I melted a little bit of the butter, and now I'm mixing it all together with the other ingredients, hoping for the best, hoping that it'll look kind of okay, kind of look doughy, look somewhat like a cake mix. I wasn't even sure at this point. Next, I was instructed to add 3 pods of blue currants. I didn't know what blue currants were, so I just got normal store-bought currants, and I also just used 3 cups of currants. But it ended up looking like that was way too many currants, so I also altered that part of the recipe, and I think I just added 2 cups of currants because I already thought that there were quite a few in the recipe and I didn't want it to be overpowered by the currants. So you can see I'm only adding a bunch of half cups that add up to 2 cups of currants here. Okay, so this next part is actually so embarrassing. I added 6 spoonfuls of cream, which was what was requested by the recipe, by the author of the recipe, but I completely forgot a step as I'm watching this video now. I completely forgot to add nutmeg, and that was clearly in the recipe. So my recipe turned out differently. I didn't add the nutmeg that I was supposed to, 1 clove of nutmeg, but I did add the 6 spoonfuls of cream, which I'm doing here, trying to measure it out carefully and not spill. I don't know about you, but I always struggle with spilling liquids when I'm cooking and baking, and it gets everywhere and it really bothers me, so I'm clearly trying to do a good job there. And then my sisters are coming in and out in the background, cleaning and doing other stuff in the kitchen. I'm so embarrassed that I forgot the nutmeg. It's just so embarrassing. How do you forget an ingredient when there were only like 6 ingredients in the entire recipe. That's just so embarrassing. But whatever, too late now. Finally, for the last step, I was supposed to add egg yolks. And that was all the recipe said. It wasn't very specific. It didn't say how many egg yolks I was supposed to add. And I had no idea what to do. So I just asked my sister, who is a much better baker than I am, to watch over my shoulder and tell me when it kind of looked doughy. And I added 3 egg yolks at first and kind of mixed it all up. And then we ultimately decided that 3 egg yolks looked like enough, but it was still kind of weird to stir. And that's why I'm making all of these kind of funny faces at the moment. So this next part was the fun bit where I really had to kind of mold the dough with my hands. I decided I couldn't do it with a wooden spoon or any type of utensils because it was just so sticky that it wasn't working and it was too frustrating. I just couldn't figure it out. So I kept trying to mold the dough with my hands, and I keep making all of these really funny faces because it was so challenging and so sticky. I had so much trouble that I actually had to add some flour to the recipe because I could not get the mixture off of my hands. If you just watch my face, my facial expressions throughout this next part, I promise you, you will be entertained because I'm clearly not really enjoying myself with all of this dough on my hands. I'm having all my family members come and check to make sure I'm doing it correctly. You can see they're looking over my shoulder, making sure everything looks okay. And yep, that's the dough. It was super sticky, and here's my sister adding the flour because I couldn't do it myself because I could not get the dough off of my hands. Next, I greased the pan using butter. I decided that would be the most traditional to use, even though I kind of already broke a bunch of different laws of early modern period by using the microwave, but no matter. And so I greased the pan, got it all nice so that I could start forming the little biscuit, cakes, dough, cookies, whatever you want to call them, on the pan. I rolled them up into little balls. I decided they kind of looked like biscuits, so I was going for a biscuit-like shape. And I rolled them up. They were very sticky, but I had a good time kind of formulating the dough and working it. Here's what the final product looked like before I placed the dough into the oven. So this is kind of like the mixture of the little cakes. I guess in my opinion they look a lot more like cookie dough or biscuit dough, but yeah, that's kind of what they looked like before they went into the oven. And this was the final result. After baking the biscuits, little cakes, at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 minutes. They looked really good. I was happy with them.
Want butter or something? No, it has a lot of butter in it. If you had like a lemon, what is it called? I'm already forgetting. No. You want to try some, Lily? Yeah, hold on. Ow! That was one hot current. I think it tastes good. I don't hate it. It's about what I expected. Yeah, me too. So much better. I said it's about what I expected.
How is it?
You want to try a little bit?
I think it's good. I'll have one.
Not yet, because I'm working with my dough.
Can I have one, Maddie?
Mm-hmm.
Let me get my book and do that.
All right, hello, Mom.
Hi.
How did you like the little cakes that I made, the early modern recipe?
They were surprisingly good.
Surprisingly.
Well, you never know what to expect when you resurrect a recipe from so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't very sweet. I guess I would have expected them, if they were made today, they would have been made with a lot more sugar.
I kind of liked it, though.
But the fruit gave it a nice sweetness, so it was pretty good. I realized I might not die if I lived back in Renaissance England.
Yeah. I mean,
It was a relief.
A lot of people didn't. They have a lot of cool, also medicinal recipes for like consumption and all these other things. So, well, thank you for your opinion. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I don't think this is
Lily, how did you like the little cakes, the mini cakes that I made that were actually scones? Well, they're called little cakes.
Well, they didn't know back then. I liked it. I think I'd eat them fairly often if you bake them more.
Anything else? Honest opinions.
Yeah, they weren't that sweet, but I figure sugar must have been more expensive back then also.
Where are the beans?
So, you know, you put in currants as a hope that it will sweeten it up. And I actually liked that also. Nice and crunchy. Classically British.
Okay, thank you for your opinion. Charlotte, youngest sister, what did you think of the little cakes that I made?
I thought that they were very well made, and you know, they looked very pretty. I feel like they could have been on a baking magazine. They weren't my favorite because I don't really like currants, so I just like didn't enjoy the sweet part. But if I did like currants, then it would have been very good.
Thank you. I'm glad. That's a pretty nice review. Well, I'm glad. Okay, thank you. Benny, what did you think?
Maddie was so excited.
Benny, what did you think? You look so interesting.